Since 1973, Tattoo Charlie's has been an established body modification studio in Kentucky, featuring world-renowned artists and piercers, currently with locations on Preston Highway and in Lexington, a staple point in the tattoo community. Learn more at TattooCharlies.com. Set up your appointment today at 7904 Preston Highway. Our tattoos are done while you wait. Welcome to the Metal Forge. I'm your host, Mark Jackson, and I'm going to be pounding out the best regional metal for you tonight. If you're new to this show, pick up your hammer and get down with some of these featured guests. Got any questions or comments? Send them to metalforgeradio@gmail.com. Welcome to the show. I am your host, Mark Jackson. Thank you. That was Osmandius by Spell. Wanted to start the show off with a little bit of a different vibe this time. Oh my God, thank you all so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. But I'm not going to, spend a lot of time here in the monologue this week. Everything's pretty much about the same. There's not really much stuff going on metal-wise, other than the fact Danny Wilmer Productions has canceled all of their Louisville-based shows. Louder Than Life has been canceled this year, Bourbon and Beyond, so on and so forth, along with all of the other shows that were supposed to be done in like May. Look forward to that stuff for next year, I guess. Sorry. On the Metal Forge front, patches are going to be here soon, so for everybody who's pre-ordered a patch, they should be coming in, and I will be getting them out to you shortly. I appreciate the orders, and rock the fuck on. Hell yeah. But other than that, hopefully before too long, we'll all be able to be healthy and be safe and be back out on the show scenes, going and seeing your favorite bands, which... Here's something. Give me some feedback on this. Who do you want to go see first? Where's the first place you're going to go after quarantine? You going to go to your local bar? You going to go to your favorite restaurant? Where do you want to go? Send me some feedback either on the Metal Forge page, metalforgeradio@gmail.com. Let me know some things, and I'll review it here. I'll mention you if you do that, which is pretty damn cool. Next week on the show, we're going to have United Kingdom-based Under King. Max Jeffries is going to be calling in, so that's fucking awesome. Going to be the first United Kingdom band on the show, whereas today, Spell is the first non-United States band. First international band. Hell yeah. And then after that on 5/15, we're going to have War Cloud on the show. Nick Burks is going to be calling in. So, I'm looking forward to it. And then some more surprises coming up for later in May and so on and so forth. Check out the metalforgeradio.com for more updates. Patreon.com/metalforgeradio. metalforgeradio@gmail.com. Get with me. We'll talk about some stuff. Hell yeah. Love you guys. Thanks. This is Dawn Wanderer by Spell. And I'm being joined on the phone from Vancouver, Canada. Oh, wow. First international artist on the Metal Forge. This is
oh, great.
Cam from the band Spell.
Hey, Mark. How are you doing? Thanks for having me on the show.
Dude, thank you for coming on the show. I love the new album, Opulent Decay.
Thank you.
So cool. Released it back earlier this month. Well, actually last month now in April. So tell us about Spell and about yourself, man.
Sure, yeah. So I'm Cam. I'm the singer and bassist in Spell. Do a lot of the songwriting as well. The three of us have been rocking together since 2007. The drummer is my brother, like brother from the same mother. But we're all brothers now because we've been playing together for quite a while. And we sort of started out playing heavy metal songs, really kind of heavily inspired by the bands we worshipped, like Judas Priest and Accept and Megadeth and stuff like that. And as the years went on, we've kind of brought more diverse influences into the fold. And we're really proud of this new album, Opulent Decay. We're feeling like it's pretty unique.
Very much. And I noticed, because you have 3 albums out.
That's right.
You have the Full Moon Sessions, and you have For None and All. I went ahead and I purchased the entire discography a while back.
Thank you very much.
And was just like, it's an interesting dynamic because no 2 of the albums are alike to me. They seem like they've all been a little bit different.
That's kind of been our goal. We love bands like, the most obvious example coming to mind is the Beatles, but there's so many bands where every album they do is a little bit different from the last one. I don't really see the need of rewriting the same album twice. That's not really one of our goals. We want to keep being fresh and keep being new and bring in more diversity into our tunes.
Definitely. I did notice too, like on Opulent Decay, there's almost some like Cure sounding stuff on there, and I'm a big fan of the Cure, because,
cool, yeah.
But there's a lot of whimsical playing, and I think it's awesome. It's like, because in modern metal, it's all heavy all the time, right? And and this is a nice break from it, but it's heavy on a different level.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the heavy parts sound heavier when you add in some other parts. It's like the little acoustic bits in Black Sabbath. Those crushing riffs wouldn't sound so crushing if it wasn't for those soft parts. Definitely.
And being a huge Black Sabbath fan, like Sabbath Bloody Sabbath has a complete acoustic chorus in it. And it's, I totally get what you're saying. That's awesome. So you all are from Vancouver. Are you all from the same area, or do you have to travel to play together?
Yeah, so we all grew up pretty much in the same area here in Vancouver. And we lived close by to each other for years and jammed together all the time. And actually, when we wrote the last album, For None and All, we were living together in a big old farmhouse kind of out in the suburbs where we rehearsed every day and everything. But right now, actually, our guitarist Graham and drummer Al, they've moved out to Nanaimo, which is on Vancouver Island. So it's a little ways out. I'm the one that's got to go travel to rehearse now. It's like about a 2.5-hour ferry ride and a little bit of a drive. So, it's not that far, but it's far enough that you got to really make a day or a couple of days of it. So it's been a different dynamic. That was one of the things I think that made this album a little bit different, because for the last one, we were kind of together, constantly rehearsing every time and working on it. For this album, we took a little bit longer with it. It was more time spent sort of trading ideas back and forth. And I think there was actually kind of some growth that came from that space, because we were able to sort of, each give our own parts more thought and kind of build up those harmonies a little bit better with more time and that sort of thing.
They're out on the island. Is it more of a rural area out there? Is it something where you could walk outside and play the heavy music and just let it ring out in the woods and stuff, I guess? You definitely can get places like that. They're in Nanaimo, which is a city, a small city or a big town, I guess. But it's definitely a lot more rural than Vancouver. You don't have to go far at all before you can get into some pretty deep, dark woods. And we definitely get some of our inspiration from that. I get out there as often as I can. You can get onto the island, and there's some places where you can, hike for, easily go hiking for 2 weeks straight without seeing another single human. So, that I feel like that does bring some of that kind of darkness to the sound. So how do you all write a song?
Good question. that's kind of the most interesting question to me, and that's always the first thing I ask. Other artists when I talk to them. A lot of the original inspiration often comes to me in dreams. I'll be asleep, and then I'll kind of just wake up with some idea. Either I'll wake up with some idea for a melody, or more often I'll be kind of in these deep dreams, like a nightmare or happy dream, any kind of dream, and it just has this kind of overwhelming emotional feeling. And then I try to find a way of taking those feelings and capturing them on my guitar. So I'll often be getting out of bed in the middle of the night. And, like when you have sometimes a nightmare, it won't necessarily be as frightening after you've been awake for a few minutes. So I try to capture it quickly before the feeling sort of dissipates. And then once we get some little bits and pieces like that down, sometimes I'll work on something for months or even years until I can get the structure between, say, the pre-chorus and the chorus to really pop the way I want it. But other times we'll just swap things back and forth and just play together and jam on something and improvise, and then it'll come together like that. So each song is a little bit different. I wish I had a magic formula. If I did, I would be very rich, maybe.
Right, definitely. So there's no magic formula, obviously. But how you said even years? I mean, so how old is the oldest song on this album?
Yeah.
On Opulent Decay?
Well, sure. Yeah. So Dawn Wanderer, I think I started working on the earliest. I was working on that. I was trying to pull it together actually for our last album, but it wasn't quite making sense to me. I couldn't get the verse and the chorus to jive in the way I wanted to. So I ended up shifting the keys a little bit and changing a few things around. And it was like, man, I had that song, I would just play it over and over and over thousands of times and try different things. And finally it just stuck out and came together how I wanted it to. And it ended up being the last one that was actually finished for this new album. So, I guess it was just about 5 years in the process for that one.
Wow, that's super cool, because I mean, the lyrics, there's only 12 lines of lyric, but it's so moving.
Thank you.
It's a powerful, I think it's a powerful message, especially, all I have is what I give away. It's like, wow, I really, really appreciate it and like it a lot. So,
man, thanks for your kind words.
I dig that song. There's some on here that I think that a lot of people would be like, wow, really? Because I really like Atraxia as well.
Oh, yeah, cool.
So it's just super cool stuff, man. I completely, wow.
Thanks, man. I got a bit of a story about that one. I was traveling around in Europe a few years ago, and we were in Greece, and we were just kind of jumping between some cathedrals. I always like to check out the huge, beautiful medieval cathedrals when I travel around. And I ended up hearing this kind of, sacred choral chanting in one of them. And I've always been a fan of that stuff. I've got a bunch of Gregorian chant records. I think this type of music is, designed to instill belief in God in people and, kind of make people see the heavens. And, you walk into the church and it's all designed to kind of reverb and echo just right. So to create this overwhelming sort of spiritual experience. And I kind of think that for me, anyhow, music has that same purpose in life. I believe that music is magic. It has the power to change our realities in ways that aren't really necessarily logical or rational. So, I heard that chant in that church, and I immediately felt like I wanted to include something like that on a hard rock record. I just felt like the mood fit so perfectly, and you can almost hear like the bell tower chiming in the distance, and I'd never heard something quite like it done on a heavy metal record. So I tried my hand at it when I got home. I think it came out pretty good.
Very much, very, very good. Do you have a favorite album or song that you have written?
Oh gosh, I always feel like an album should be kind of a cohesive thing. I mean, of course, my favorite album that I've written is this new one. I think that each one of our albums, I strongly believe has gotten better than the last one. If they weren't getting better, we'd be doing something wrong. But, the way I listen to music at home is just by putting on the vinyl record and just listening to the whole thing. I very rarely will just put on a specific song. And that's the way I've been doing it my whole life. Like the way I got into music, I think all of us in the band got into music was by listening to records. We used to be able to go down to the music stores and pick out records from the dollar bin, or sometimes get them for $0.25, and we just bring home as many as we could afford. It didn't even really matter what it was. If the cover looked cool, or maybe we'd recognize the names of one of the musicians from something else, And back when we started collecting records, we're not that old, but like 15 years ago, records were not cool like they are today. So we could, go in and get pretty much all the classic rock stuff. You get all the Cream and Pink Floyd and Beatles and whatever else, all the Led Zeppelin records for $1 each.
Yeah.
And so we just put them on one after the other and just, listen through all of them. And I just feel like that's the best way to appreciate an album. But if you had to make me pick my favorite song I've written right now, I would have to say Dawn Wanderer, because it just took me so long and so much thought went into it, and I was so happy when it finally did come together how I wanted it to.
Definitely. And yeah, that's completely a thing I agree with too. It's like listening to an album, I'm in it for what I call the long haul, and is one of those deals where, to me, I as we were talking about before we started the interview, I live in a pretty rural area. I live about between 30 minutes and 40 minutes from any like bigger city.
Cool.
So what I do is, I can put on an album in the car and just start it and go, and on average albums are about 40 to 45 minutes.
Yep.
So I can, listen to a lot of albums on a one-way trip. So it's a really, even on the digital age, it's nice to be able to do that. And it's nice to be able to listen to a cohesive thought like that. So in the writing process, I'm a musician, as I've stated countless times on the show. And I'm sure the local people in my area that listen to my show get tired of me saying. They're like, yeah, Mark, we know. We always do, have had crazy names for working titles for songs.
Yeah.
Do you all have any crazy working title names?
Oh, good question. There's been some, like on the last album we had a song called River of Sleep, and for months I was calling it Deep Blue. I don't know why, it just felt like sort of a bluesy thing, and something was kind of deep about it. I don't know. The weirdest names, kind of like whenever I am working on music, I'll just record it as like audio notes in my phone.
Right.
And that'll be kind of bizarre because I don't know if it's some sort of GPS thing on my phone or whatever, but it'll kind of automatically default to titling a song based on whatever is the nearest kind of like landmark that I'm near. Like sometimes it'll be like a store or a community center or a park or whatever it is that I'm nearby. So if I'm kind of humming tunes to myself and I'm driving around or walking around or doing whatever, it'll be always associated with these landmarks.
Right.
So it kind of creates a weird sort of, what do you call it, like mental or like memory map of where I was when I was working on different things. So often I'll give songs those titles just based on places that where I was. It gets kind of confusing.
Yeah, I can imagine so, because I just recently discovered that about my the new iOS on my iPhone does that, and it's like Highway 60, 3:35 p.m. and it's like what? What?
Yeah.
It's like what? Yeah. What was I doing there? And it's like, I might have this little, like, hey, this might be a good riff. And it's like, so yeah.
It's weird to think about the way the technology we use to help us, create music kind of informs the way the songs end up, or, what the song what I might end up writing lyrics about, or, how it might come together.
Definitely. And that's one of the things that I've gotten to talk about with a lot of different musicians from, other places, because not every band is near itself anymore. You might have a member that's in Texas, and a member there's a band that's going to be on the show next week that they have one member in the United Kingdom and one member in Arizona.
Wow.
And it's like, how do you guys do it? And it's all digital. And I've found out that they had never spoken to each other on the phone, they only texted each other.
Wow.
I was like, wow.
That's different.
Yeah. It was like totally cool. And I was like, dude, the first time they ever spoke to each other will be on the show.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah. And I was just like blown away by it. So that's a totally cool deal.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool that you can do that sort of thing. There's definitely, I'm sure, countless great projects that wouldn't have happened otherwise if it wasn't for that. At the same time, for me personally, I do find a lot of value in, being present with each other in the same room and, hearing each other's amps feeding back and just, getting that energy from one another as you play and work on stuff. So we try to get together as much as we can. And like when we record, we always do it analog, either completely or as much as absolutely possible. We just like that feel of, having things running through, tubes and hand-wired circuitry, and we try. I find the computer things to be distracting at the best of times. They're definitely necessary to an extent, but I try to get away from them whenever I'm able to.
Understandable with that. Now, when you say you recorded analog, I mean, is that amps and recording equipment? Like, did you record a tape?
Yeah, we were working in this great studio, Little Red Sounds, and it's. I mean, they do some digital stuff, but they have an entirely analog setup. So they've got this great mixing board from the early '80s that they recently brought up from California or something like that. And they got the big tape reels and all the off-board compressors, and it's pretty cool to work with that kind of process. It definitely takes. It's not easy. We recorded everything live off the floor, all the bed tracks, so we just had to play that stuff, dozens and dozens of times until we got it perfectly right, because there's no editing, there's like overdub editing, but there's no, quantizing or beat mapping or pitch tuning or any of that bullshit. We're just playing, and I'm pretty proud of that, because I think there's not so many bands that are doing that these days.
Very much. And yeah, around where I'm at, I'm around the Louisville, Kentucky area. There's only a few places that still even offer tape recording, and one of them, you have to really get with the guy, and you might be looking at a year out before you can record, because he's on the road so much with doing live sound and stuff like that. So it's kind of difficult. So I can completely dig that.
Yeah, I'm going to give a quick shout out to Felix Fung, our producer at Little Red Sounds. It's always great working with him. We kind of we did the last album with him as well, and we have a great working relationship. It's almost like they call it the fifth Beatle thing, where the producer kind of has a bit of a hand in the pie and kind of helped us, because when you're working on songs, especially when you're writing them for years and years, sometimes you get a little bit sort of too close to it, and it can be hard to tell. It can be hard to get a perspective and tell kind of what the song needs, and maybe you're playing the pre-chorus too long. You need to cut it in half, and sometimes there's hard pills to swallow like that, and you need a good, honest producer who can tell you it straight.
Yeah, definitely. And I think he was only an engineer on the album, but I think he had more of an idea of it than their actual producer, and that was Bruce Botnick for The Doors.
Yeah, cool.
I think he was definitely better at stuff like that than Paul Rothchild was. So if you could have written a song or an album from anybody else, what would it be?
Damn, good question. It's hard not to say Revolver or Abbey Road. But heck, I would have loved to have written Seventh Son of a Seventh Son by Iron Maiden as well. Damn, or maybe Red by King Crimson. I don't know, man. We love music. We love so much stuff. Like, people keep asking me to choose, my favorite album or my favorite song. We've all got collections of thousands of records, and my favorite song changes depending on what I've got on. Maybe Heavy Horses by Jethro Tull, or maybe I'd love to say The High Priestess of Soul by Nina Simone, although, God, I would never want to even attempt to sing something like that.
Definitely, and that's the funny thing, too, is I saw the picture on Instagram where you all were jamming out some tunes, and where you're holding the Heavy Horses album, and you're...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was totally good stuff. I was like, it's Jethro Tull. I was going to...
Yeah.
That's total, yes. I'm a huge Jethro Tull fan when it comes to that.
Oh, cool.
Such heavy lyrical content.
Oh my God, yeah. Ian Anderson's fantastic.
Oh, very much. So what is the allure of music to you?
The allure of music? If I wasn't doing music, I have no idea what I would be doing. It's not like we're making any money off it, but, it's what I think about constantly. When I'm going to bed each night, I've got music running through my head, either what I've been listening to or something I'm working on. It just keeps me motivated to, I'm excited to get up each morning because I know I can work on whatever song I'm working on, or go play the next show or plan the next tour. I feel incredibly lucky to have music, because it really does just bring meaning to my life, and not to mention, a platform to share my ideas and, whatever beauty I can create or bring into this world, to be able to share that with other people is an incredible gift. And, I don't know where this stuff comes from. Like, when I'm falling asleep and some musical idea pops into my head, I feel like I've been given an enormous gift from, I don't know from where, from the muse or from beyond. Like, I feel like it's not coming from me, it's coming from someone somewhere outside of myself somehow, and I feel lucky to be able to sort of channel it and and present it to the world. So yeah, it's everything.
It's interesting because I was actually going to say it's like you're being channeled to do it, and that's, yeah, I think that's a pretty common thing among a lot of musicians. They feel channeled to do it, like it's something that's always there.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're lucky enough to have art in your life, if you're lucky enough to be able to, put food on your table and have a roof over your head and not worry about that sort of stuff, and then you've got a bit of extra time to spend on an artistic pursuit, I think that's the end all be all. That's all I could ever hope for.
So what inspires you to write music? I know we've talked about the dreams and such like that, but is there any one specific?
Yeah. Well, you were talking about the lyrics to Don Wanderer earlier. Thinking of that specifically, I feel like I've seen so many people in my life who speaking of bringing meaning to your lives, who seem to only find their meaning sort of through adding more and more kind of comfort and ease to their own lives, and like, they get a bit of money, so they buy, go buy a bigger TV, or buy themselves a comfier couch, or go on vacation just so they can sort of lie around and have someone feed them margaritas. It's just relaxing, but does that really bring any meaning to your life? That's kind of what I'm like. If your only goal in life is to take more and more for yourself and kind of get yourself a fancier car, get yourself a bigger house, get yourself nicer clothes, get yourself better food, and then when you die, it's like, what purpose did that all have? So I'm always kind of trying to think of something beyond that. I feel like if I can offer something from myself to make someone else's life easier, or if I can help someone that has less than me, or if I can through music or whatever else bring a little bit of joy and beauty into someone else's life, for me that's so much more meaningful. And then when it's all over, you feel like you actually did something beyond just yourself. So that's where I got the line from. All I have is what I give away.
I just have to think on that for a second.
Yeah, you bet. That's kind of the theme that's going through this whole album, like the difference between opulence, just how much you can take and how much you can have, and then kind of the other side of that. Like I've seen people as well who live so much of their lives kind of in asceticism, and they're kind of trying to go the absolute opposite route and have absolutely nothing, and just live like a totally simple life devoid of pleasure and joy. But I feel like there's a balance. That's not, for me anyhow, that's not a solution either. I feel like if you have nothing and you're not experiencing any pleasure yourself, then what do you really, what can you give to anyone else? Right. I think there's kind of a balance somewhere.
Very much. Do you listen to yourself musically in the regard of being a fan of what you do? Do
I listen to myself musically? Well, I've thought of that, and I feel like I would really like to. I often think, after I write a song, I often think, oh, if I just heard this on the radio or whatever, would I think it was cool? But I feel like that's kind of one of the big, kind of practical jokes of the whole thing, is you never can, once you write a song, you can never get that perspective back and hear that song kind of objectively again. So I wonder about it often, but I don't think there's any way of telling.
Definitely. Yeah, it's sometimes I get people that say yes, that they've like detached themselves from it, but then
interesting.
But then I get the people who are just like, it's constant critique.
Yeah.
So, and
no, I mean I wouldn't say it's constant critique. Like I definitely I'm proud of the songs that I've written. There's that feeling when you come up with you write a song, you come up with that chorus riff or whatever it is, and you're like, man, that's cool, and you get just a chills all over your body, and you just want to play it over and over, and you just can't wait to share it. So for me, that is the moment, the most important moment is right when you create it, right when it comes to you, and the first time you pick up your guitar and you play those notes, that's just the all-powerful kind of like, moment of godlike creation and beauty and joy.
Right on. So in the writing process with that, you're the bass player and vocalist. Do you also write guitar riffs as well?
Yeah, I write a lot of the guitar riffs. I mean, we all write some of the songs on this album. I think I kind of put together the basic gist of 7 of the 10 songs, and then so I'll kind of make some recordings and hash out some ideas, and then we'll all bring them together, and everyone puts their spin on them. Someone might say, hey, maybe this part's in a harmonic minor, but let's play it in Lydian or whatever. Or maybe we take this riff and it's in 4/4, but what if you add a beat onto the second part of it and make it in composite time or whatever. Just these little things you can do to make things a little bit weirder and cooler, and just bring a new idea in. I'm kind of fascinated by these sort of songwriting partnerships. Like, you hear about the Lennon McCartney or like the Simon and Garfunkel or whatever. And when I've done a bit of reading on those, I've heard about stuff like when John Lennon would write a song, Paul McCartney would very often write I think they call it the 8-bar, but I understand that to mean like the pre-chorus, or sort of the part of the song that kind of, I don't quite know how to say it, like almost kind of makes it three-dimensional. If the whole song is in D or whatever, but then during the pre-chorus it drops down to A, and then when it goes back into the chorus, that's what makes the whole thing just kind of open up and explode out. If the whole song plodded along in D, the chorus wouldn't have any more weight than the rest of it.
Right. It would.
So I kind of feel like when you bring, no dynamic. So but when you're writing it, often for me anyhow, I find that it's so hard to kind of hear outside of the box that you've written yourself into. So when you get another person to come in and help you on it, they can often, hear that little different thing that really makes the song open up. So I think it's really important to work on songs as a team, and I'm lucky to have such a great relationship with my band that we can do that together.
Absolutely. And I've always been a big fan of the 3-piece band.
Yeah.
I'm in one, I've always, Rush, Motorhead, Genesis, I've always been a fan of the Police, the three-piece band stuff.
Totally.
Because to me, it's like I think there's more of a unit to it than having either A, one person doing all of the writing, or B, having, just two people doing it. Because of what you said earlier, and I've always thought this was an interesting thing, is, the Lennon-McCartney partnership, or, James and Lars in Metallica, or Gene and Paul in Kiss, Simon and Garfunkel. It's always these duos that get together and do something, and with occasional ideas from other members. With three-piece bands, it seems like it's always all three of you. And that's super cool. No matter, and I've had a numerous amount of lineup changes with my band, and it's like we all three, no matter what, all come together and are able to write together. And I think that's super cool.
Yeah, it's small enough that you can do that, and I think the other side of it is that you can't just sort of, force, like there's no sort of forced majority in a 3-piece. You have to all agree on something, or else it just isn't really going to fly. Like if you had like a 5-piece band or something, 3 of them want to do it and the other 2 aren't so sure, but you can kind of just push it through.
Right.
But with a 3-piece, you just, everything is, you're always a unit. Whether you're on the road or deciding where to go for dinner, or whether you're writing a song or in the studio making a decision, it always kind of has to be a consensus. We agree or it doesn't work.
And it's one less seat somebody has to sit in, so more gear can come on the show, on the tour with us.
Oh, exactly. All the gear we can.
Definitely. If you could have played a concert from, like any major concert from days gone past, what would it be?
Ooh, damn. Well, I was just watching some videos from the U.S. festival. I think it was 1982 or something like that. I think it was famously the one where Van Halen got paid $1 million to play like the worst concert they ever played.
Oh, wow.
But man, there's the Judas Priest set from that night is so cool. And I'm pretty sure, unless I'm confused and thinking of something else, the Triumph set, the Canadian power trio Triumph set from that night also is unreasonably cool. Man, Rick Emmett is just on the top of his game. He's like one of my very favorite singers and lead guitar players, and he does them both at the exact same time, just effortlessly.
Wow.
So I would love to join that bill with him.
That's a good, no one's ever given me that. A lot of people have said Donington's. Somebody said Woodstock 99.
Woodstock 99.
Yeah, the fire episode.
Yeah.
But nobody's ever given me the US Fest like that. That's cool.
All right.
Do you have a favorite city or venue you like to perform in?
Ooh. Gosh, I mean, probably my favorite show we've played was at the Hell Over Hammerburg Festival in Hamburg, Germany. Man, that venue was just absolutely beautiful place. Just a nicely sized hall with the sound was great everywhere we went. We played the show and then we got to watch a bunch of really cool bands afterwards, and the energy was fantastic. I mean, we love playing everywhere we've played. Well, in Europe in particular, we always love touring. We have a good time everywhere we go, but that particular city, beautiful, like medieval walled town, great crowd, great venue. It was an absolute joy. We can't wait to get back over there.
Nice. Yeah, hopefully everything gets back to right.
Yeah, no kidding.
And I just want to go to shows again and have fun with people.
Yeah, man, it's a tough time to release an album because like I said, we've been working on this album for years, and we really took our time to try to get everything right. Down to the album artwork, and,
which is outstanding, by the way. Who is the artist?
Oh, thank you.
That?
Oh yeah, it's I'll tell you about that in a minute if you'd like.
Definitely.
But I mean, just working for so long to release this album, and then the date finally comes around, and we're in COVID lockdown. And so, we had a Europe tour, which we had to cancel, and we had a West Coast tour, which we had to cancel, and of course our album release party. And then to top it all off, pretty much half the world lost their jobs. So, it's hard to sell records.
Definitely.
So, if you're speaking to anyone who's listening, if you're a supporter of music, please go out and, whether it's us or your other favorite bands, please, support musicians, because it's not an easy time to keep going. And being a musician is not cheap. We pretty much emptied out all of our bank accounts recording this album, and filming a couple music videos, and making some records. So the assistance is appreciated.
Very much, and which is spellofficial.bandcamp.com.
That's right. Yeah,
you can get everything there, even physical copies. So I think people should do that.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you about the cover art, because I've got kind of a story about that. We were looking for a long time, trying to find just the right thing, and there's this beautiful kind of one of those very mysterious ancient used bookstores in downtown Vancouver, and it's one of those places. I'm kind of thinking of like Harry Potter or something, because it's all just piled to the wall with ancient books, kind of in no obvious order. And there's this old man with his spectacles down on the tip of his nose, sitting behind his desk, just completely piled high with books. He might as well be writing with a feather quill pen. Well, I'm sure he's not, but he just knows where everything is. But then underneath this place, they've got this like dark basement with just hundreds and hundreds of boxes and stacks of books. And you can go down there and look around if you kind of get permission. And so I just spent days down there, just sort of rooting through stuff. Of course, I'm interested in old books anyhow, but specifically I was looking for some inspiration for an album cover. And I flipped open this random book, and it was a collection of Dada and Surrealist paintings. And the first page I opened to was this painting, which ended up being the cover, which is by Max Ernst, the German Surrealist. And I think it was painted in 1943 and 44. And I saw it, and I've been a fan of Max Ernst for a while, but I'd never seen this particular piece before, and I was just totally blown away, and I was like, this is it. And luckily I was able to license it from his grandparents, or whoever is in control of the estate now.
Wow.
And boy, I'm sure glad we got it for the cover.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's what speaks to me in it, if it's the ruins underneath, or the green with the columns, or the dark on the right hand side. But it's super awesome, and wow.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, it's pretty abstract, but it's kind of like this weird combination of you can't quite tell if it's natural or if it's man-made.
Right.
There's something sort of surreal about it, where it's like you feel like it all these little elements are obviously kind of carefully done with intention, but you just can't figure out what the meaning is.
And exactly, because it looks like there's some bit of biological bits in the rock almost as if there's faces, and there are I see eyes and stuff like that. It's wow.
It's kind of like when you're out in the deep woods and you just you're looking around at the nature, and you just you kind of feel like you're being watched. You start seeing faces and arms in the trees, and you can't quite tell what's anatomy shapes, and what's nature and what's man-made.
And what is your mind seeing there? I like to do the kind of the generalist questions, more about you.
Yeah.
More about Cam.
Sure.
Do you have a favorite film?
Favorite film? Boy. One that's coming to mind immediately is Metropolis, the German film. For some reason I can't recall off the top of my head who the director is, but it's black and white, and it's just this incredibly bizarre film that sort of culminates in this fantastic, terrifying scene of this factory, and it's kind of right in the industrial era when that was kind of the great progress and the great fear. And this factory kind of becomes this horrifying fire-breathing demon, which kind of like devours all the workers in this nightmarish scene. And then it's a silent film, so you get this big word Moloch, which comes up in the demon's name as it kind of eats all the workers.
Definitely.
It's such a powerful scene.
That's interesting too, because that was the Metropolis robot was the genesis for C-3PO.
Really? I didn't know that. That's cool.
George Lucas. And it was directed by Fritz Lang, I believe.
Oh, yeah, I think that's right, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have an ultimate jam?
Great. An ultimate jam, like a favorite song sort of thing?
Yeah.
Or what do you mean?
Yeah, something that always finds its way back to your, I can't say CD player,
right?
But your media. One song that always comes to your record player, CD player, MP3 player.
One song,
Spotify.
Yeah. Man, that's a tough one. Frick. I mean, that's the thing, though. It's always changing. Like when I was growing up, I was completely obsessed with Maiden, and I still am. But I feel like I think that, someone told me when I was growing up that for most people, the music they end up listening to for their entire lives is the stuff that they liked when they were 20. I think I heard that once, and I think when I heard that, it kind of terrified me because I didn't want to be one of those like out of date rock dads or whatever who's just listened to stuff that's not relevant at all anymore. So I kind of intentionally made an effort to always expose myself to new music and to kind of force myself to get into it. And whether it's new music as in like contemporary or new music as in something that's just new to me. I still put Maiden on all the time. But I'm always looking for new stuff. Like right now, I've been really heavily into Motown. So I guess if I had to pick a jam, there's always worming its way back in right now. And has been for the last couple of years, I guess. I'd have to pick Diana Ross, one of the Motown hits. Like, let's go with "Stop in the Name of Love."
Nice.
It's just such an incredibly beautiful, succinct song. Like, there's not a single unnecessary note in it. Everything, like the whole band is playing like one complete unit. You don't get players like that. I don't think really at all anymore because. You hardly have like studio session musicians who spend all day every day like just hearing a new song and creating the ultimate groove for it. So and that's like to me like a beautiful little time capsule of what I consider to be like a wonderful time in music.
I can agree with that. Actually, I think when it really comes down to it, the only real studio session musician taking out the R&B, hip hop, rap side of everything.
Yeah.
Because, granted, that's played live regardless. Is the country music scene? Do you have a guilty pleasure musically?
Oh, I mean, heck, I don't really like to think of guilty pleasures. Like, if it's a good song, it's a good song. We like, obviously we like, like jazz and, some music people would call pretentious, but it's good to sometimes you just want to hear pop music too. Like I really love. One of my absolute very favorite bands actually is a band like the Ramones. They just write these super simple, easy pop songs, and they're all like just in open E or A or whatever. But man, like they're beautiful. They really jam. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of. If you want to put on I'll put on Lady Gaga sometimes. There's nothing wrong with that either.
I agree. You like what you like. You should.
Yeah.
It's the artist that not necessarily ashamed to mention, but that. To me, what the guilty pleasure is about it is like it's that surprise. Like you probably wouldn't think that a metalhead like I am would listen to, Beyonce.
Right.
But not saying that I do, but a lot of people, I've had ABBA is a huge mention, or ELO. Huge
sure,
mentions.
yeah. I mean,
so
those are great musicians. I mean, I've been talking about Diana Ross and stuff. You mentioned Beyonce. I don't put her on a ton, but Donna Summer, I'll definitely put on Donna Summer all the time. And I think that's where Beyonce gets a lot of her inspiration.
Yeah, definitely. I could go with that. Do you have a favorite food?
Boy, a favorite food. We're lucky in Vancouver to have quite a big diversity in food. So we can eat whatever we want pretty much. But I mean, man, I love sushi. I love Vietnamese pho. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it actually, but it sure is good.
Yeah.
I guess if I had to pick a favorite, actually, right now I'm thinking I love Greek food, like a nice big Greek like all the tzatziki and that stuff. It's just delicious.
Right, like a nice gyro, like tear it up. I've quite become. I really like lamb. I've noticed that it's so good. And I could only imagine going to Greece and actually having traditional Greek food.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be there, and man, was it ever good.
Right. I think we have a mutual friend on Facebook that had a Greek vacation planned and had to have it cut short due to this virus issue. So.
Oh my God! Yeah.
But he was talking like, oh, so good. Like the food there is so amazing, and
yeah,
it's definitely a good one. Do you have a Spinal Tap moment?
Oh boy, yeah. We definitely have. We always joke about that when weird stuff happens to us on tour. But now I'm trying to remember it on the spot. I remember being somewhere. Where was it? We were somewhere, and we legitimately got lost in the basement underneath the venue as we were trying to make our way to the stage. And God, I wish I could tell you what my bandmates would remember it for sure. They have better memories than me, both of them. But it was like, we were in one of these places. It was kind of like almost like a like the what do you call it? Like the steam room, like where Freddy Krueger lives. The boiler room. Thank you. We were expecting Freddy Krueger to come out at any moment, and we were just looking for the stage. So stuff like that happens. Like I think Spinal Tap musicians love it because it's so accurate.
Yeah,
it's exaggerated a bit, but
the exaggeration is the spontaneous combustion.
Yeah.
But that stuff happens.
Yeah.
You get the reviews if you shouldn't get those kind of reviews like they get, but but sometimes there's a critic that has that happen.
For sure.
And they give a shit sandwich review.
We've had those, yeah.
And you can't find the stage, or the pod is my biggest thing. Is the pod never opens, and and then it opens at the last of the song. That's totally it.
And it's such a great metaphor because in most cases, of course, it's not a big pod, but it's like with the amount of gear you're relying on each night when you're on tour, there's always something. Like without fail, every single night there's something that goes wrong.
Right.
And then you're just desperately trying to fix it in like 10 seconds with 100 people looking at you, or 1,000 people, or 10,000 or whatever. And if you're lucky, you can fix it. If not, you just sort of try to make do and pretend like nothing's wrong. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And whether the spontaneous combustion is great too, because there's always, when you're living on the road, it's tough. Like there's always some sort of weird injury that you get. Like we were on tour once, and one of us started getting all these blisters, and then it's like you're trying to lift a bunch of gear up and down huge sets of stairs and run around a stage, but you get these horrible blisters in your foot, and then you're trying to rinse them off in the backstage bathroom after the show, and it's just kind of grotesque and comedic all at the same time.
Oh yeah.
So it's always weird.
Or not in the drug metaphor of extracurricular activity, but
well, there's always some of that.
Well, there's that too, but and then you have the thing of oh well, I can pick you up. Are you sure? And then you try it, and then the guy Filthy Animal. Was picked up by the guy, and the guy just kind of dropped him, and dude broke his neck.
Jesus,
yeah. So then they had to cancel tours, and like James from Metallica, avid skateboarder, kept breaking his ankles, so they had to postpone tours. So
that one's happened to us for sure.
It's oh my gosh, So it's the Spinal Tap thing is a real thing, and a lot of people think that it's a comedy. It's real.
Yeah. I mean, when you're driving around all day and sleeping on people's floors each night, and you hardly know what's your route, but you wake up each morning and you can barely figure out what city you're in. It's a bizarre existence. I mean, I wouldn't trade it for anything, but I always try to do as much of it as I can. But it sure is weird.
Oh yeah, it's where are we at tonight? It's Springfield. Yeah, I mean it's like that. I get that. What is your greatest achievement as a musician?
Well, I have to say writing this album. I'm extremely proud of it. I really feel like we took our time on it. Nothing was rushed. We're lucky to have a support from a good label like Bad Omen Records. They're not forcing us to push out something we're not 100% satisfied with. And we spent all of our money to get the recording as we wanted it in the studio, and we took our time, and we didn't set a date to record it until we were confident that we had everything worked out just as we wanted it. So, I was really feeling like, once I could get this album out, then I would, it's not like die happy, because I still want to live, and, our next album is going to be even better, but, I just feel so satisfied to have done it.
When you have a journey, it culminates with something that you are so happy with, then yeah, definitely. Should be the greatest achievement at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I just hope people will, see how much work we put into it and appreciate it.
Very much. So, here's the last question.
All right.
Of the interview, and people say it's the morbid question.
Lay it on me.
If heaven or hell exists, what would you like to hear when you arrive where it is you think you're going?
Ooh, interesting. That's kind of like this question that I always used to ask my friends, which is that if you're, like, imagine you're driving along and then suddenly, the road gives way beneath you and you're just kind of flying off the edge of a cliff, what song is playing? It kind of makes me think of that.
Definitely.
And the answer I always used to give when I asked people that question was "Hallowed Be Thy Name" by Iron Maiden. Right when it kicks in. So I think I'll stick with that. I mean, right back to the roots. If I'm going to die, then I might as well be dying with be where I started.
Yeah, hallowed be thy name.
Yeah,
definitely. Love it. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's probably the best answer I've had.
Cool.
Because you always get the cliche answers like, "Oh, I'm going to hell and Slayer's going to be playing." But yeah, hallowed be thy name is definitely it's one that speaks to me, anyways. It's
always been one of my very favorite tunes.
It's the cardio song, that and Rhyme.
Yeah, oh my God.
Put them on, you get a half hour of cardio in 2 songs.
Yeah, you bet.
For sure. So tell everybody again how to get a hold of you guys to either promote, book, buy music, buy merch. How do you all get
it? You bet. So if you're using Instagram, you can find us at Spell Official. If you're on Facebook, you can find us at facebook.com/spell. And if you use Bandcamp, which is great, you can go to spellofficial.bandcamp.com. And of course, we're also on Spotify, and I think Deezer and Apple Music and whatever else you got there. But you can always email me as well. It's just cammesmer@gmail.com, and I can point you towards stuff. And I think if you're going to finish up with a song called "The Iron Wind," I'd like to tell a quick story about that, if you don't mind.
Absolutely, go ahead.
Yeah, so I wanted to tell you this just because I thought it was kind of cool, and I haven't really actually gotten to tell anyone about it yet. But I came up with that song kind of in an interesting way. I was walking through the forest, kind of in this rural area, a little ways, out from the city, and I was a little bit lost, and so I was trying to kind of take a shortcut through this forest on this little dirt road, and it was totally black out, like the moon was covered up, and I didn't really have any lights in there other than my cell phone, and I was just kind of wandering around. It was muddy, and suddenly I came out into this big open area, like a kind of a big clearing, but it was pitch black, and I could see all these giant, like enormous shapes looming over me. And when I got a little closer, I realized there were these huge ships, like big boats in kind of dry dock, and they're all, I don't know if you've been to like a dry dock, you've seen them. The boats look huge because they're out of the water and their keels are so giant, but they're kind of propped up by these like spindly little legs that just don't look anywhere near large enough to support these huge things, and it just feels like they're going to come like crashing down into you at any second. And so I was just wandering around through this place, and boats, and one of them I saw was called the Iron Wind, and I had never heard of anything like that before, but I just thought it was really beautiful, and it really fit the metaphor of the song for me, which is kind of like this force that pushes you forward, even when you're kind of doing things that are not necessarily in your best interest, but sort of for the benefit of those around you. It's forcing you to kind of sacrifice yourself for everyone else. So I wanted to share that because I thought it was such a strange way to come up with a name for a song. And I hope you guys enjoy the song.
Cam, thank you.
Thanks very much, Mark. It's been a joy talking to you.
So here is The Iron Wind.
Since 1973, Tattoo Charlie's has been an established body modification studio in Kentucky, featuring world-renowned artists and piercers, currently with locations on Preston Highway and in Lexington, a staple point in the tattoo community. Learn more at TattooCharlies.com. Set up your appointment today at 7904 Preston Highway. Our tattoos are done while you wait.